This is Brother Jamal coming at you again with another video. This is Sunday afternoon video we're bringing to you. And we continue to talk about the importance of maintaining justice. Allah commands us the way we maintain justice is always when we judge between people. It should be always done in fairness. Once again, Allah commands us and tells us that the way we maintain justice is to judge between people, always judge with fairness. That's how you maintain justice. As we speak about maintaining justice, to this day, America has not maintained justice when it comes to the black citizens of this country. They have not maintained justice. They have maintained a hypocritical type of justice. They have maintained a justice that's inadequate, but they have not maintained justice in a fair way, in fairness, in an honest, upright way. It's one thing to talk about standing up for the national anthem, the one thing to talk about pledge to the Legion. All those words sound good, but America can make words and music sound good, but when it comes to living up to it, that's a whole nother different journey. And to this day, June 28, 2020, America has not been able or not willing to live up to the fairness as it's required to maintain justice. They have not shown fairness in their deliberation as it relates to black people. As we speak, black people are continued to be found lynched and hung. You know, we're hearing stories. Two individuals in California, 50 miles apart. A young black man in Texas. Two black men, I think, like last year in Oklahoma. We are continuing to see where black people are continuing to be murdered by the corrupt police departments across this country. And you have individuals and you have people who want to make excuses, want to make an exception for these police officers in their corruption to continue to murder black people. And talking about police reform. How can you have any kind of police reform when in the deliberation of police reform, there's no justice in that? There's no maintaining of justice, no maintaining of fairness as it relates to black people. So how can you talk about having police reform? That sounds good. It may tickle the ear when you hear it, but it's hypocritical because there's no guarantee that they're going to do this. And look, I've said this on a number of occasions since 1990. They have been talking about police reform. And to this day, as we speak, police reform has not went anywhere. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't equal out to be anything. It's just something that's said with some nice fancy words. As far as following through, carrying through, it doesn't mean anything. And so these police unions that they have around the country, they are the ones that set up a barricade. They are the ones that block and uphold the police corruption of all these corrupt police departments and police officers. They uphold that, these police unions. That's what they do. They set up a roadblock. They set up a way to guard and protect the corruption of these corrupt police departments and these corrupt police officers. That's what they do, the police union. That's all they do. And so I'm saying, how can you talk about having any kind of justice? How can you talk about having any kind of peace when there's no justice? There cannot be any kind of peace when there is no justice. There will never be any kind of peace when you don't have fairness. when Allah has commanded us, is commanding us to tell us that where we maintain justice is that when we judge between people, with individuals, we judge in fairness. And I'll say it again, I'll repeat myself again, America to this day has not judged the black citizens with any kind of fairness at all. No kind of fairness. Because if it was fairness, we wouldn't be here still talking about the corruption and the murder of black people being murdered by these corrupt police departments across this country. And it stepped into another area where it's clear evidence that most of these police departments have been infiltrated, if you will, with the white supremacist movement. Most of these police departments around the country have been infiltrated with the white supremacist movement. You see the kind of all-out attacks that's happening to black people across this country. This is the level to show you that there's no justice, there's no fairness, because you have a move to really murder off black people. It could be black men, black women, black kids, a black child, a black youth. You see this movement going on now. And I have to honestly say to you, I can tell you this is the same kind of movement. This white supremacist movement is the same kind of movement I saw in 1950, I saw in 1960, I saw in 1970. Here we are in 2020, June of 2020. We see the exact same thing going on that we saw in 1950. The exact same thing. So we want to talk about progress. We want to talk about the movement for equality. There's no movement for equality and fairness. There's no movement for justice, because what we see happening today is a result of the not maintaining justice, but the corruption that we see across this country. And most of the police departments across this country, all we see is corruption. All we see is injustice. As I said, the protests, the movement for against social injustice, the movement against oppression, and the movement against institutionalized racism, right today's time as we speak, never have we witnessed before, never have we saw before so much institutionalized racism like we see today. It's been there, but it's beginning to rear its ugly head. The evil makings of institutionalized racism is so ingrained into the institutions in this country until you need a revolutionary movement to oust all of that evil way of thinking, that evil mentality. It's one thing to go around the country tearing down the monuments and the statues and banning the Confederate flag. But what about the institutionalized racism is at the root of the foundation of this country? It was built on institutionalized racism. That's at the foundation. And if you were to get rid of this institutional racism, you have to go to the root, to dig the root up, to dig the whole plant up out of the ground, not pieces and particles of it, but you got to go to the root. You got to dig down real deep in order to get the root of institutionalized racism out, in order to get oppression out, in order to get social injustice. You got to go to the root of the foundation to dig all of those things out, to actually get it out once and for all. You have to go to the root to take it out, to get it out. Once again, I want to say to the protesters and the people that's involved in the rally, it's good when they take it to the house of these corrupt police officers or anybody that's involved in corruption. It's good to take the movement, the protests, the rallies to their house. I saw in St. Louis where they took it to the mayor's house. That's what you're supposed to do. Keep the pressure, put the pressure on. These police officers, these corrupt cops who have murdered and brutalized people, it's good to take a rally, name and where they stay, and take it to their house. Take the rally, take the protest to these corrupt cops, take it to their house. That's what you're supposed to do. Keep the pressure up. They shouldn't have no peace. See, you can't expect to have no peace if there's no justice. I'll say it again, you cannot, and it's foolish to think so, that you're going to have any kind of peace when there's no justice. You can't have one without the other. They have to both coincide. They have to both go together. I'll say it once again, you cannot expect to have any peace when there's no justice. Once again, I've been your host for this segment of this video, Brother Jamal, and we will continue to, inshallah, bring you these videos, these discussions. Once again, our theme is maintaining justice. As I open up, I will close out by saying Allah commands us the way that we maintain justice. The way that we maintain justice is that when we judge between people, it has to be done in fairness. That's how we maintain justice. If it's not done in fairness, then there will be no justice in your ruling, in your deliberation. So everything that we do, it has to be done in fairness.